All right, let's move on to the man on the milk carton, Brian Anderson. Hasn't been seen in about 3 weeks now. Dave Penshorn and Jay Google among the patrons that have questions. We also got a question from Cody Carlson on Twitter about this just really weird situation where he hasn't appeared in a game for so long, even in blowouts, despite the fact that Andrew Monasterio's defense at third base, not that great either. So he hasn't even come in as a defensive replacement. So we're all kind of scratching our heads about what's going on. Dave, his question here: what's going on with Brian Anderson? Is there a stick measuring contest between Craig Counsell and the front office? Anderson is out here playing less than Wei Chung Wong, who is just being stashed. Jay Google asking who's to blame for the Anderson situation: Craig, Mark A, Matt Arnold, and then Cody Carlson's question on Twitter. Saw Ryan's thread theorizing about a possible power struggle between Craig Counsell and Matt Arnold, which sounds very plausible. Just wondering if you guys have any other theories, or have you seen any regarding Anderson's zero play for nearly 3 weeks? I don't recall a roster situation like this before. So, Ryan, let's start with you. For those who didn't see on Twitter what your theory is, can you kind of run through that?
Yeah, so basically I said the fact that he hasn't played now, and I think it's 19 days at this point. August 22nd is the last time he got into a game in any way, shape, or form. He hasn't played an inning in the field, hasn't gotten a plate appearance in that entire time. This would be weird for any team, but it screams under Craig Counsell because he doesn't do this. Craig Counsell plays everybody, sometimes almost to a fault. Like, he is getting guys in games all the time, even if he has to like put them in weird positions and do other things. He just gets guys into games. And so this is extremely, extremely bizarre. We talked about it a little bit last week and kind of noted, yeah, this is getting pretty weird. This week especially, and it came up, and the reason Kurt Hogue went and talked to Craig Counsell about this after the Brewers were up 7-0 with Brandon Woodruff absolutely shutting down the Pirates on Tuesday night, and Brian Anderson didn't get in to replace Monasterio defensively, didn't get a pinch hit appearance in a game where absolutely this is where guys keep fresh appearances, right? Like you bring in your bench and have them play because you want to keep guys fresh and you want to keep them on their toes. So if a guy hasn't played in a while, they tend to play in blowouts like this. And even that wasn't enough to get him in the game. It just felt like somebody is sending somebody a message, and I don't know how to read it other than Craig Counsell is sending a message to Matt Arnold and the front office that he's just not going to use Brian Anderson basically no matter what. And so that opens up a whole host of questions. Well, why would he be doing that? That doesn't make much sense. And what possible, what is he hoping to accomplish by it? It just doesn't make any sense from that perspective. It seems like it would be detrimental to Anderson, who Kurt noted in his article that he was trying to be the good soldier, but also expressed some frustration that like, this is a tough situation that he's in. And so you are just left kind of with more questions than answers in this whole situation, going, why is this happening? And what does it say about the relationship of the front office to the field management staff that this is happening? And I honestly, I talked this over with Steve for like a half hour yesterday at Oktoberfest, and we couldn't come up with a viable explanation other than these two groups of people headed by Craig Counsell and Matt Arnold are not seeing eye to eye. I just don't know another way to spin it to what else it could possibly be.
Yeah, this has to be a pissing match. There is not another explanation for it. Not playing Brian Anderson is detrimental. This is, first of all, Counsell is acting stupidly here. Brian Anderson does things well. He's a good defensive player. If you believe in Monasterio's bat, which has been better than Anderson's has over the course of the season, that's fine. But you have a lot of guys whose bats are better, who you then remove in certain situations, who you give days off to. Though that's just normal baseball. So I think we can correctly infer here that either Brian Anderson did something to piss off Craig Counsell, or the front office did something to piss off Craig Counsell involving Brian Anderson. Maybe they sent him a note saying, hey, play Brian Anderson more. Maybe they sent him some like matchup statistics that he didn't like. Maybe they were overbearing and trying to get him into the game, and he was asserting power back at them. But there is definitely something, it has to be the answer. There's no other answer. Counsell knows very well how defensive value works. Like this is not him not being ignorant of what value Brian Anderson can bring. And so since he's acting against his interest, it has to be personal in some way. There is no other explanation. And, and if nobody's going to talk about why, we'll probably never know. I actually wish Anderson would at this point, because it seems like any bridges that existed have long been torched in this situation, and there's not much working against you speaking forthrightly in this situation. But appreciate him taking the tone, I guess. But yeah, this is dumb. This is stupid. You shouldn't be doing this in a pennant race. They need to knock it off.
Yeah, well, first off, Anderson may not know. He may just be the person stuck in the middle. This might be like the kid being fought between with two divorcing parents, where they're just so mad at each other, and like the kid is just like the football in the middle. I don't get the sense, because if Anderson had truly done something wrong that pissed off Counsell, well, then shouldn't it have also pissed off Arnold, and shouldn't that have resulted in him being off the roster? So like,
yes.
So that part of it too just doesn't, like, I came to that too. You get really Machiavellian in this very quickly. You turning things over, going, is this part of Craig Counsell's exit strategy for he's doing this, which is now going to have us, people like us, saying, oh, there's disagreement between the front office and Craig Counsell, which is going to then give him license to say, well, I needed to move on. It was time for me to move on. And we would all say, okay, that's why you're taking that big bag of money from the Mets in this offseason and going to manage the New York Mets, and making excuses for him because, oh, well, okay, you couldn't get along with them. I had that thought, and that's conspiratorial nonsense, but like, I don't know what else it could be, because this is just so strange. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for this to be happening. And I think there is, when I got to the end of that thread, I got to the point where I was like, well, Craig Counsell can't be allowed to win this. He can't win this fight. Because if Craig Counsell is basically puts himself in a position where he gets the final say over matters of disagreement between him and the front office, that's the manager running the organization. And the manager running the organization, I don't know when the last time that works, but it ain't in my lifetime where that's really been a thing that worked and was successful for an organization where the manager had so much power over the rest of the organization. Mostly it's just like, decades of Mike Scioscia nonsense in LA that I think of in that case. You can't really have a field manager be the one who's in charge and have the final say on stuff. So it always seemed like the relationship between Counsell and David Stearns was good and productive, and they saw eye to eye, and there wasn't any friction there. So is that dead? Is this now, this is Matt Arnold and Craig Counsell, and there must be something there, but exactly what we're going to read into it, I'm very curious what this means going forward. And actually, the way I began that thread was saying, I have a feeling that we're going to be spending a lot of time this offseason talking about how significant this Brian Anderson thing is,
probably
in relation to Counsell, because there's definitely something deep running going on here, but exactly what it is very, very hard to say.
So he is going to win this. You do realize that, right?
Well,
he's a lame duck, and freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. There's no way to punish him. Like, you could go really extreme and fire him, but I literally don't think he'd care. And
no, I mean, Craig Counsell will just leave. That's what I'm saying. The end game.
Well, yeah, he's definitely going to leave. He's
going to leave. Yeah,
he's a lame duck. He's not going to be the Brewer manager next year. That is 100% true. So he can do whatever he wants, because you can't fire him.
Right.
You can't.
So, but what I'm saying is, like, Craig Counsell can't be allowed to win this power struggle, in that, like, you would say, okay, Craig, if you want to run things this way, Mark steps in and says, yay, he doesn't want him on the roster, you need to get him off the roster, and then, Craig decides to stay long term. That isn't really a viable solution here. Like,
gotcha. Okay.
Like, that's what I meant by, like, having him, like, win this thing would be like him becoming, like, sort of the de facto last word on this stuff, and then staying. Like, I don't think that's really a viable alternative here.
I wouldn't
either.
worry about it because he is not staying.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand, so hard to understand. Fair weather, fair